of you that know her, you will know that to be true. So I just love having her along because I think she just adds something with her presence. So she'll be going in and out of the chat box with you. Um, if you can't see me, just you might be used to Zoom by now, but you can go to your view and change it to a gallery view. And then you'll be able to, it's always nice to kind of see a face. I feel like when you're listening, it makes it a little bit easier. And so I'm really excited about this next hour, and I'm really going to keep it in. Much I'm really going to try keep it in that metal container of an hour. I know some people are coming in here on their lunch hours today, and I just want to stay respectful of this safe container that we're in. And we're going to get into this more as we move along. But for that to happen, we do need these, I envision them as a metal, very clear structure. And inside of that structure is, it's almost like this glass of water, and hopefully you have one too. We have this structure, and within it, we can flow, but we need something to contain us. So, hello from Chicago, Lily. Welcome. I like to just light a candle for just to open up this structure, to open up this portal of 1 hour together. And this flame will stay alive for this magical time that we can arrive and share our energies as we dive into something that has the power and ability to transform so many things. Okay, so welcome. I did put here, if you can, have a glass of water available, paper and pen, if you like. Paper and pen is not essential, but how do you get gallery view? You go to view, view, I believe. And change it from standard to gallery. Hi, Pat, welcome. So you'll have this replay for 2 weeks. And so I really invite you in this hour to sit back, relax, and go into receiving mode. Rather than if you find yourself intensely trying to, read all the slides and get all the words, and you're talking to a reformed type A, that would have been me 10 years ago. Like, I got to get this thing so I can do it right after. By the end of the day, my life will be fixed. So if that's you, just sit back, relax, absorb, and know that you can go back because you will want to. I'm going to, you'll find me kind of moving quickly because there's a lot that I want to say. Receive the energy, go back and watch the replay. And I invite you to, when you're watching the replay, to actually pause it and take a screenshot of those slides that, that really resonate for you. So pressure's off. Embrace your magic at midlife. Ooh, I just got a little shiver up my spine. So here, I'm going to use the word magic because I really love that word, and I'm going to dive into what I mean by that and, how it has changed things for me. So these are the rules that I have found of magic. It works very swiftly if you let it. And as I just said, to sit back and allow for this hour. Respect your skeptic, but put him or her aside. I know there are a couple of men that signed up for this webinar as well, which is really awesome. Respect your skepticism. Believe me, when I started using the word magic, it sounds really magical, but notice what comes up for you. And, I'll tell you that what came up for me was, you've got to be kidding. I work in a medical field, a very medical field. And we don't talk about magic there so much, although there's some magic healing happening. And often, what came up for me was not like the beauty and the magic of magic, although that was happening, but it was more like being burned at the stake. And I was like, oh, right, that has been the history. So when falsely accused or feeling persecuted, so you notice that skeptic coming up, just put them aside. Um, because here we have magic really likes a safe and a fun container. And it also needs a location. So it has to know where to locate you. And that is going to become more and more obvious over our hour together to get really specific. Because when you are over there, magic can't find you because you're actually right here where it's all happening. So right now, I want you to just feel your feet and your seat and take 3 deeper, slower breaths. Just allow your body a little bit more space inside of you. So breathe in deeply to your belly, your heart, and then exhale, maybe with a sigh, with an open mouth, and allow yourself to locate yourself right here in your seat, in your body, in this class, with my voice. And with that, there's something that drew you here, something that drew you forward. And maybe it was a desire, a wish, a knowing, a thought. So, what I'm going to ask you to do now is to pick up your glass of water, and we're going to begin our magic. Water holds molecules that are shaped by our beliefs, our intentions, our desires. And we also hold molecules. So take your glass of water and just very quietly to yourself, just whisper into your glass of water with love what your desires are. Why are you here? What would you love? May I find peace? May I, manifest more abundance? Doesn't have to be fancy. Magic likes simple. Breathe it in to your glass of water with love. And then you can put your glass of water down and allow it to just be present through this energy of this gathering. Because what you're going to pick up is much more than words. It's more of an energetic frequency. Okay? Water absorbs that. Water, you are water. You're 80% water. And the reason I start just with that is because there has been so much research around water and breathing. So one example would be breathing in or whispering in affirmations of love, positive, affirming, life affirming statements into a glass of water over time and into another glass of water over time. I can't remember the exact statements, but breathing in, whispering in negative, angry, or shaming statements into the water. And when they studied the molecules after, and this has been replicated many times in the one glass of water that received love, the patterns were beautiful structures like snowflakes. And the patterns in the other glass of water were erratic and not in synchrony, not in sync with each other, kind of a mess. And if you think about it, it makes sense for us. What are we saying to ourselves? And when we can breathe this into our water, the water is actually picking up the frequency, the energy of being here. Okay, there's a lot more in that, but we're going to move along. That was our first magical ritual. So, our breath is the fuel that powers our magic, and visualization is what is going to direct that power. So, in other words, what we're breathing into, we are actually breathing life into. What are you breathing life into? And when we can visualize, and maybe you can, make that loving affirmation of what you visualize for yourself into your water, that's what directs the power. There's many other ways than directing it into water. You might direct it into your thoughts, into your writing, into your everyday habits. So there is a breathing pattern of box breathing that I'm going to just, leave you that we won't do it today, but breathing in for 4, it's a magical number of 4. So breathing in for 4, holding for 4, exhaling for 4, and holding for 4. And I invite you to do that upon arising every morning to make that square complete, to open up into your own magic. So if you're here, something brought you here. You might or might not be feeling exhausted or depleted, and often when I'm working with women around midlife and men, they have run themselves very thin in many ways. You might be tired of banging your head against the same wall, and you can let me know. Our way of talking today is through the chat. So please, if you want to send me a reaction of a thumbs up or a thumbs down or a yes, pop it into the chat. You might be tired of banging your head against that same wall. You might know somewhere inside of you that there is something more for you in this lifetime. You might not be sure what it is yet, and your mind might be ping-ponging about the possibilities. You might be really ready to let the needy people in your life go. And I don't mean the people that really need you, your children, maybe your aging parents, but how many of you know that there's people that you are giving to, and it's an old pattern. It's an old pattern inside of yourself, wanting, finding it difficult to release what's no longer working for you, whether it's people, places, or things. You might be worried, that the anxiety or the pain that you're experiencing will go on forever. And that's a very scary thought that we run into a lot. You might also feel panicky that life is passing me by and I'm still not sure what my purpose is here. Can someone please just give me the direction? Or you might be curious about what this next phase of life might bring you. So see if you can just open up to that for a moment. Curious about what this next phase of life might bring you. Yeah. Because guess what? Magic loves curiosity, playfulness, and a sense of cunning or sneakiness. And I added in sneakiness there because it kind of gives it a bit of a cheeky quality, like kind of cheeky. It's kind of, and it has been secret. Like, let's face it, the true healers, the alchemical healers have had to keep things pretty, undercover. So there's this kind of cheekiness about it. And that's what I love about magic. So what do I actually mean by magic? How many of you are like, I don't know what she's talking about. Let's just tell me what to do. So this is what I mean. This is how things can evolve. And some of you know a little bit about my story and some of the turning points in my life. But I'll give you a real thumbnail version. So, like many people at the beginning of COVID, I found myself in a new city and without a job in a small rental apartment and with a husband who was away half of the week every week and no access to social situations, like many of us. And that was a really difficult time for a lot of people. So it was basically me in my apartment and walks in nature. And that was all. So, like a lot of people, that isolation can turning inwards can, for some of us, really shake our structure that we have been holding on to. So that tight structure of what I do this and this is my identity and this is how I make money. Whoops, sorry. This is how I make money. This is how I show up in the world. And that started to crumble. And that's where I just made a very conscious decision that I now needed to move into my own body. How many of us feel like we have spent a large part of our lives outside of our body? Yeah, doing, showing up, improving ourselves so we can fit in maybe, or show the world that, I'm doing okay here. Reacting, Joyce. Yes, right on, Lily. Yes. Reacting to what's around us. So that can be a constant state of stress. And masking. Thank you for that word. Yeah, and masking. So we sometimes we put on layers, layers and layers and layers, and it's not your fault. This is the way things have been kind of, devised here. And when those structures fall, we're left with looking inside of ourselves. And so at a certain point, I started to really embrace that. And when I started to do some of the things I'm going to talk about today, what happened after that, after getting through a lot, like what I call draining the swamp of all the gut, what happened to start was something that's not short of magic. And I can't find a better word for it, although there is another word I'll use at the end. And as I started to actually move through those layers, and some of you know what that's like, you run up into all kinds of roadblocks where you're like quicksand. But what started to show up in my life, what signs, symbols, people, opportunities, was in alignment with me. And I started to trust it. And I started to notice that when I went out into my walk in the morning, and I thank you for the trees because they basically held all my gut for me. I just started talking to them. If somebody saw me, they probably would have thrown me in a hospital. But what I got back from it was more than magical. Job opportunities came up that were aligned for me online. People came into my life. Even Juliet came into my life as my student, who has since become, a friend and colleague. These things start happening when you start to be able to pay attention beyond the reaction. So don't worry about all the writing. It's more for me than it is for you. So I stay on track. So magic is the ability to move these molecules on purpose. In other words, to alchemize energy in a way that works for you. Now, you're already doing this, but is it towards what you desire? You're already manifesting. You know that. You're already magical. But is it moving you towards what you desire? And what blocks you or gets in the way? Often old beliefs, old stuck emotions. Sometimes it's ours, and sometimes it's most often I'm starting to see it's an inherited belief or a collective belief of the culture. So maybe your mom told you something and it really stuck with you because that's what she knew. Or maybe it was a grandparent that said something that you should be, and we know this from I shoulds and I shouldn'ts. I should be better, thinner, have more friends, be smart, whatever, smarter, younger, neater, or I shouldn't, so we're either working out of fear or we're working out of guilt. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have done that. Shouldn't have eaten that. slept so long or slept not, it's endless, or not slept enough. So, and I'm kind of making light of it, but I really do want to emphasize the heaviness of this. And we can live our life in those places. They're both. Yeah. And I do have older women in my life I'm thinking of, and I'm talking, like say 80s, and friends, old friends of my parents, and I can see the women who have been able to alchemize, who have been able to move through the stages, and I can see the women who don't know that alchemizing is possible. So that thing that happened to me when I was 14 is still as real as it is when I'm 80. It hasn't been alchemized. So it's taking up space, right? This is true for all of us here. History and life has pointed us in one particular direction. And when I hit that time during the beginning of COVID, that was my direction. And I was like, whoa, like, I kept on running into blocks. I couldn't move in that direction. In retrospect, it was the biggest gift I ever had, because I started to look around in different directions. I wasn't just going north, I was going south, east, and west, and in. And when we start doing that, we realize that life is not linear, that I'm going to end up with this house and this job and this career and this kids, and life is going to be great. That's what we've been told. It doesn't work that way. Has it worked for anyone here? Has that worked out? And maybe even the TV came out in the 50s and the 60s. That's what we saw. Well, I'm really dating myself. I wasn't around in the 50s, but I was here in the 60s. And no, and we know that, I think it was Jim Carrey said, that he wishes everybody could be as successful as possible, because then they would realize that that was never it. Life is cycles. Just feel this: winter, spring, summer, fall, filling up, emptying, listening, talking, birth, death, open, close, right, left, learning, teaching, the masculine, the feminine. We eat, we secrete, we pay, we receive. Feel what is there that we're missing? And I think this is where we get blocked. We feel, and then there's all kinds of beliefs that come up around that. So we feel, and then sometimes we don't know what to do with it, and sometimes it can be overwhelming. And that's where I found myself. I found myself all of a sudden with a lot of anxiety, depression, which I've experienced prior to that. I know that what that's like. And I started to feel more physical pain. And I realized it was actually this question mark that I needed to dive into. Super quickly, if you need a bigger balance on this, what's happening right now, everything around us, the earth, Mother Earth, we feel her, she's holding us as we move into more of an energetic balance in men and women. So feminine energy can feel soft like butter. It can be feeling, flow, creativity, intuition, or it can be sharp like metal, making decisions, beliefs, habits, clear boundaries, moving through her day, but still with a flow, not a frantic fear. That resonates for anybody. I got to do this thing. Paying her bills. These are also the way that the feminine shows up in the world, the balanced feminine. We can be completely unbalanced in our feminine, and I, for one, have been there. The masculine energy is a beautiful, protective, productive, and providing energy, that we also have access to. And unhealthy masculine that we really have been herded towards, I want to say, is focused on the doing, the producing, the effort, the external reward. How are you, what do you do is the first question that we ask people. What do you do? What are your kids doing? That's also a big question. outward success. And we see this, you guys know this already, at the expense of ourselves, our relationships, and the earth. So this class is all about harnessing and releasing what gets in the way of us being in our divine, balanced, feminine energy. Here's magic. Magic is being able to feel, to express, and then to be able to flow. And when we start flowing, when I really started flowing with this, and it took some time, I started to notice, things that I never saw before on my walks, thoughts and ideas, creativity. I started taking singing lessons because I wanted to flow more inside of myself. I started to paint. I started to write like never before. And I've always loved writing, but I was stuck. So we can't create, we can't heal and manifest what we want if we are stuck. We can, we can, but sometimes it's not in alignment with our true core, our center. We all get stuck, and life is designed sometimes to keep us stuck and keep ourselves overthinking about how do I get unstuck? How do I get unstuck? How to feel better, how to undo the pain, the anxiety, the trauma. But overthinking is what keeps us stuck. How many of you here are overthinkers? How many of you are trying to figure this thing out, even right now? Like, yeah. And staying in that loop of the thoughts. How do I do this thing? Madeline, spit it out. Tell me how to do it. So just notice that in yourself. Oh yeah, I used to be like that when I was watching a replay of something. I would just like fast forward to the end just to see if I could get the one slide. All right, so I want to introduce this idea to some of you. Some of you have heard it already. And see if you can identify in this maybe somewhere that you get stuck. So we have cycles and stages of the feminine energy and of feminine magic, which is the most powerful magic that there is. We have the maiden, innocent, hopeful, wide-eyed, open, receptive, kind of naive. That's the way that she's supposed to be. She's looking at the world in an optimistic way. And she's hopeful. She's really hopeful about people. She sees the best in people. She doesn't see, or she likes to see too the best in people and the world. The shadow of that is always trying to get it right or trying to change other people, because you can see that they have way more potential than they know they do. And also focusing on the outside of being thin and, where we get eating disorders, and that's the shadow side. But that maiden energy, sometimes we still have. And sometimes it's all a cycle. So sometimes we really need it. We need to step into our innocence again and see people with fresh eyes. But from there, excuse me, we move into mother. And that doesn't necessarily mean mothering a child. It could be mothering a dog or a plant or a home or your kitchen or your cooking. A nurturing, holding, caring energy, looking after, even nursing. Now, this might resonate with some of you. There are relationships that you have in your life that you might be too much in the maiden energy of they're going to stop drinking. And maybe they will, you don't know. They are going to stop that pattern. I'm banking on their future self. This time they'll see it. This time I'll tell that friend a boundary, and this time they're going to respect it. So notice where that innocent maiden comes in. She's beautiful, isn't she? She's so hopeful and optimistic about the world. And that's not a wrong way to be. But then notice, and notice where the mothering energy comes in, say with friends or clients, if you work with clients, where you are taking care of them. where you're doing the mothering, the holding, the hand holding, the nursing, or maybe it's a spouse. This is not for people who are sick or elderly. They need mothering, don't they? And so do children. But that's what that energy is reserved for. It's not for your powerful friends, your super powerful clients. They, they might need hand holding a little bit to get to where, you want them to go. But when we're hand holding or mothering the people that are not meant for that mothering energy, it depletes us. Save that for the people that need your mothering energy, not the world. You're not here to mother the world. So we're going to get really clear on our energy here. And then we have the next stage of moving into the crone, which actually means queen, if you can picture that. If you can picture the queen on her throne. So in other words, the elder that has turned her experience, her cracks into gold, her experience into her very wisdom, and proves to be, just by her being, a guide for the people around her. She knows what to say. She doesn't always get it right, and she doesn't really care because she knows now that that was never the point of her life. When we don't move into this energy at some point after midlife, we can build resentment, withdrawal, isolation, fatigue, and pain because we're busy maidening and mothering. So just see where that resonates for you, to notice where you get stuck and which energies you get stuck, perhaps at midlife. And take that energy back and maybe place it where it's really intended to go. Yeah. So there is grief at every one of those stages, and they're cyclical. And this is good because tears are always a release. So what experiences do you still have to grieve, let go of, or move into the present stage you were in? I mean, I still grieve my younger phases or my younger self sometimes. I still grieve, the younger mothering self sometimes. And so it's this cycle always. There's nothing wrong with it. So the maiden might let go of relationships she thought would change so that she can now step into her power, giving up the idea that someone or someone else can save you. It's a big one. Doesn't mean you don't call upon your doctor and your friends, but you are the one now. Each one of you here is the one now. The mother might let go of nurturing others so they can reclaim their own power and give up this old idea that we've been sold of this all depleted, selfless woman as being, the one that we idolize. No, I want to be a woman who is so full of myself that I have an overflow to give to other people. How many of you like that idea more? Yeah. Yeah. Because that is your true self. The all depleted woman is not you. It was never meant to be that way. And when I start working with women, maybe they have fibromyalgia, maybe they have chronic fatigue, I can see this all depleted woman that needs to get herself back. And the crone, nourishing ourselves now, nourishing our own body wealth, our energy wealth, our relational wealth, our sexual wealth, our spiritual wealth. How wealthy are you is the question. And this includes money wealth, by the way. But I noticed that often the women who have money wealth without these other wealths, they don't have a foundation for it to stay in. So it comes and it goes and it comes and it goes. All right. So how does this work? Here we go. Letting go of the old beliefs. Yes, sounds very simple, doesn't it? And conditioning that are outdated. So you can now step into your full power, your full magic. Are there people here who are ready for that? And maybe not. Yeah, Lily raised her hand. I see lots of reactions. Who isn't ready for that? And all of you have it. It's not any outside source that can give you that. You might have done all the roles, and now you feel a strong urge, a strong tendency, urgency to step into the unknown. And this is really your true self, your soul calling you forward. I would put money on it that that's who brought you here. Your true, real, authentic self. So you are a vessel that contains magic right in the very parts that have been abandoned or cut off. And we all do this. You know, there is a point in our lives where we choose um, we choose to abandon ourselves to stay attached, perhaps to our peer group, to our mom or dad. We figure out that we have to be a certain way, so I better put that true self aside. And I know my story goes farther back, to my teenage years, where I literally stepped out of my body and started putting on the masks. Um, and you can see in this pot, imagine if it was a person and they have scars. This is a type of Japanese pottery called kintsugi, where they take the scars, the broken pots, and they fill them with gold, real gold. And that's how they repair, and it makes them more valuable. This is the crone magic. Your very scars, your very traumas are your gold now when they're healed. So yeah, you have to descend into the darkness in order to be able to ascend into the light. And I think in the self-help fields, we've been working into the light. We've been trying to move into the light without going actually into the darkness first, in what they called it, the dark night of the soul. Your cracks are filled with gold. And this is actually a piece of pottery that my mother made. She was a potter, a sculptor, and I've got it in front of me here. And I didn't realize it was there until I started doing this work. And I realized there was a sculpture in the shape of a womb with this magic inside right on my desk. I didn't see it. And little hints like that and nudges took me forward. It's a great quote by John Donahue: though the darkness is deep, not a hair on your head is touched. And this is true. We think, our mind will say, don't go there. It's going to rock the boat. You're going to just blow yourself up if you go down into your emotions. I've never seen it happen. And not a hair on your head is touched. So when I started going more into my body, really deep into my body, all kinds of synchronicities started happening. I found myself in a breathwork class. I did the breathwork journey, and parts of myself, I actually visualized. I saw them kind of leaving because they were healed. And a book fell off a shelf one day in a bookstore called Womb Awakening, and it drew me right to it. I picked it up and I bought it without thinking. This led me into more trainings. This led me into so many other things that I'm going to talk about now. Nothing outside of myself brought me there. And this is what I call top down, bottom up. We have to descend in order to ascend. Rooted in Mother Earth, in your body, in this moment, restoring that connection. Then being able to reach up towards what you desire, what really ignites your flame. We have examples of this in our Facebook group. I don't know if Cindy's here today, but maybe she is. Cindy, who was in a deep, state of chronic fatigue, and started taking photographs just because she liked it. And then she moved forward towards taking more and more and more and more photographs. Oh, I was going to drink this. And it just opened up a whole world for her. And that came from inside of her. So you have to move through the layers in truth to find that soft, quiet voice of your heart that's been so drowned out by the voices around you, the people around you, and the thoughts inside of you. Is this resonating for people? This idea that of yeah, just body magic, that your body is an alchemizing machine. This is your magic. We store our, and I didn't know. I found this intuitively in my own body. I was like, whoa, all these insights are coming. And then I looked back in history, I searched out to find out, well, what is this thing? And I didn't realize that this is what people have been saying for millennia. This was documented centuries, a long time ago, that we store. This is another sculpture my mom actually made that was out in the London, England Gallery of Art in the entranceway. All these things started, I have a picture of it, it's behind me now, but I never saw it before. It was on my wall. All these things started jumping out to me, leading me forward. And that's why I'm here. We store emotions in our womb chakra. Male and female have this space. And now research is showing that the womb space, and I'm going to use the word womb, if you've had a hysterectomy, if you're a man, I'm talking about that space in your lower abdomen that still holds that energetic frequency. And now we're finding out that that our womb space actually holds emotional trauma, stress, until our hearts are able to manage it. So think about this. We're absorbing. And we start to shut down. We start to get stomach problems. We start to feel dread. We've lost our intuition. We're in our head trying to make a decision, but disconnected from our body. And if we had to feel all those things all at once, it would really feel like a broken heart, and this work mends broken hearts, because when we go down into that space, then we're able to alchemize in a way and release what's stored there. And what does it give us back? Our intuition, our feelings, our emotional intelligence, and our subconscious that's guided not out of trauma and fear, but from creativity and magic. This is what I'm talking about. We are here to experience the whole thing, because we are the whole thing. Okay, stay with me here. So trauma and emotions get stuck in this swamp. And it's not the trauma so much that creates the problems. It's when we've learned not to meet ourselves, those parts of ourselves, with self-compassion. So this is a wheel of emotions. These are all the emotions that you have access to. And go back in the replay and have a closer look and see which ones you spend your time on and which ones have become for you taboo. I don't do anger. I don't do sadness. And I have had clients who have told me that I don't do sadness. Well, then you're only going to be working from your neck up. There's nothing wrong with sadness. And so when we can expand to experience the whole thing, life gets so much easier. You have a birthright to all these things. This is whole person healing that we often come to as sensitive beings in midlife. Maybe after raising kids, looking after aging parents, developing chronic pain, anxiety, or depression. Whatever your cracks are, whatever has depleted, there is wisdom there in your trauma. And if you know Dr. Gabor Mate's work, his new his book and documentary is called The Wisdom of Trauma. You are wise. Your body is telling you what to dive into, what to say no to, and what to heal. This is where you'll find your gold now, not outside of yourself. Tried that already. Maybe you're tired because it's exhausting not being authentic. It's exhausting not being you. And I love this quote, James Joyce, Mr. Duffy lived a short distance from his body. I have certainly lived there, and that's exhausting. So it's slowly stepping back into yourself, into your own container, and your body will say no when it literally is full and you can't breathe anymore. It's like no room. Maybe you're worried because you can't hold up that heavy baggage in your body anymore that's actually not you. When we know our sadness, when we allow our sadness and we feel our sadness, it's okay, it's not stressful. But when we're holding someone else's baggage and we're holding stuff from a long time ago, man, it gets heavy. It really does. It's hard on the body. And I want to just, preface that with there's nothing wrong with what you've done or how you've done that. It's what we've known until now. So our bellies, our sacral energy holds our intuition, our gut feelings, our magic, and our power. And this is what leads us to manifesting what we desire. We can't manifest what we desire if we're not in touch with our desire, right? That'll be your thoughts. Well, I should, have a big house. Maybe that's what your thoughts think. Maybe you should. Is it what your soul desires? Maybe. We have to move through the layers and empty out the stored, stuck survival stress in order to reveal the gold. The layers are the emotions. You are the container. Then the river can't can't flow if we're avoiding all the potholes and the water stays stagnant. So, how to activate your flow? You have to drain the swamp. And this is just a way that I kind of use to describe it. To release your trauma and follow where you get stuck. Okay, sorry. To release your trauma, this is what you can do. Follow where you get stuck. It might be fear, it might be blaming others, it might be criticism of yourself or other people. Because you're going to notice that doesn't feel good. You're going to notice that it feels tight. Follow that down into your body. Just like you would follow inspiration, follow the breadcrumbs of what inspires you. That will come. But follow it down into your body. Breathe there, journal there, scream there, move there, hold there. What part of you longs to be witnessed by you? And there's a lot of research on this, particularly with chronic pain, about free, expressive writing. And just really being totally truthfully honest. And there's one story, well, okay, I'll share. A woman who treats a lot of chronic pain, Nicole Sachs, and she was told that she would never have kids, she would never walk again. And what she did, you can look up her stuff, that's Sachs, Sachs. She just started journaling about her truest feelings. And what came out would have been astounding to other people. I hate being a mother. Nobody supports me. I feel so alone. I'm isolated. Where she went right to the center of what she felt. And of course she doesn't hate being a mother, but that's how she felt in that moment. And from those moments, she started to heal because she recognized that was the truth of her moment. And that was the part that longed to be witnessed, the part that had been cut off, abandoned, because good girls don't get angry. Remember, certainly mothers don't hate being a mother. We love being a mother, don't we? All the time with perfection and looking like it's really easy. Right? Am I right? Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy. I've been told so many times. I've done it myself too, where you're in a moment, you're yelling at your kids. And and you notice that the neighbor is right there. And that for women can be a super shameful moment. but we all do. So free flow writing. We can be our own container, or sometimes we need another container. So that's the bottom up, right, ladies? And here's the and men maybe. And here's the top down of your container. Activate your flow. Start sharing your voice in a way that feels safe. Sing your song, dance your dance, reclaim your body, even if it's just in your own kitchen. This is what you came here for. So when things start flowing in your body and you start going into those places and releasing them, there's a type of breath work that this brought me to that I just started doing on myself. And the strange thing is that I started to do this breath work just intuitively when I woke my eyes, my eyes weren't even open really in the morning. And I started to get up and I would be walking around kind of massaging my belly and my lower back. Even my husband was like, "Do you have back pain? Like, do you have a stomach ache?" And I said, "No, no, I didn't even realize I was doing this. Like, it just felt really good." And then as I was breathing, womb breath work came to me. Returning to the womb came to me as as a download. And it started to intuitively make so much sense that in the center of our being, where we began, there is a stillness that is your true essence, that is always there, that is your light, that is the beginning of life. And it's just all the stuff that gets layered on top that starts to diminish our own flame. And I started to do this with clients. I started to just move into breath work. And I didn't realize this was a thing, that when we do this type of breath work, our prefrontal cortex quietens down and shuts off. That's our thinking mind. Imagine moving through your life, and it doesn't stay that way. Don't worry, your mind comes back online. But we can go right into the subconscious and start releasing the emotions and the stuff that's stuck there in our own container. I did that myself. And at the same time, things started manifesting in my life that I just didn't even know about. I didn't even know that I needed or wanted. And these things started happening. And because I didn't care anymore about what people thought, I really didn't care. I started to dance more. I started to move my hips, because how many of us are frozen? I was a runner. So, if you're a runner, you're very frozen as you're running. You're very tight. I could hardly move my hips, which gave me shoulder problems, which gave me jaw problems. I started to move my hips more, my abdomen, my shoulders, and my jaw, and things started to. Life is not perfect. It never is. But it's not meant to be. So having in touch with that true essence of yourself, that still quiet place, is where the magic comes from. And one of the last things I do want to say is, and this almost makes me kind of tear up, because it just came to me the other day when I started to think, what is this magic? Is that magic is love. Magic is love. That's who you are. That's your source. And it's the most powerful force in the world. Just let that sink in. And it's inside of you. And this doesn't come, with guilt or with shame at all. It's just pure. And it envelops everything about you and everything that you feel. This is what you came here for. Oops. Want to go here, because some people might have to leave, and then I'm going to go back. Little rituals like this can activate your magic. Looking outside into nature feeling inside into your body. So let's all take this magical glass of water that we have just shifted the molecules in towards truth and love. We are here, we are joining, we are sharing, we are safe, we are supported, and we are loved. So I invite you to raise your glass of water, maybe just breathe into it again. You may even whisper your name so it hears you. I invite you to take a sip. Maybe just revisit that intention. Intentions are very, very powerful. The breath is your fuel. Your intention is the direction. And I hope this has been, I'm going to skip back here. If you are curious about how to work with me, Juliet here has done some womb breathwork journeys with me before as well. I do either like an 8-week transformational womb breathwork programs. I also have a membership group that we do monthly journeys and monthly coaching sessions together. And then in person, Juliet, also, if you happen to be in Kelowna, BC, we do live in-person breathwork and yoga nidra journeys. Please, please, please reach out to me if this is resonating for you. Share it with other people. My purpose now has become to revive this magic on this planet, because there's magic all around us. Look how nature works. We can't even explain half the things. I can't explain how my robot Roomba vacuum cleaner works by itself. I can't explain how I'm talking to you over a screen and different parts of the world. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So reach out to me, and we always have a chat to see what might be a good fit for you. Facebook group, my YouTube channel, and there are 2 more days to get bonuses for my one-on-one breathwork journeys, and that's 8 weeks of guided womb breathwork journeys, and access to 2 courses that I know some of you have already: the Empath Sanctuary and the Live Empath. Because if you're here, you are likely you're a sensitive person, and you probably have some psychic abilities because you can feel other people's energy and you have magic. And remember that rebirth at midlife comes first through you. So I'm really grateful that you're here. If you have to pop off, we're right at 1 hour. If anyone has any comments or questions, please just put them in the chat. And, I am curious. I'm just going to throw this out here. Julia, would you like to say anything about your own experience with womb breathwork? Do you feel up for that?
So I'm like, whoo, well, I just feel like power coming through. Well,
you don't have to.
I'm happy to. I'm just trying to think what wants to. I'll just drop in and see what wants to be shared. I can feel my attention moving down into the womb space, and I can just feel this immense sense of power there. And one thing that I've experienced, I'm just closing my eyes to just stay connected here as I speak. And one thing I've experienced is kind of like one of the shadows that come up is kind of this like, oh, little me, or perhaps not having the strength to use my voice or to be seen or to be authentic, as that fear arose. And so in the breathwork journeys, I want to use the word blown away. Like I get with what comes up and through, and whether it be sounds or whether it be, memories or visions, it surprises me each time, and
Mhm.
it is magical where I don't even I haven't even planned necessarily. I don't sometimes I don't even know what to expect, and what arises and moves through has helped. I kind of do this action of like, oh, it's almost like a cracking, and I envision like this mask, and it's like if it's like harder clay, it starts to crack, and it starts to allow that light to shine and allow my voice to really be heard.
Wow, I love that visual of, that hard clay like cracking. And yeah, yeah. And the other thing you said is that you don't know what's going to happen, and which is really magical because our thoughts, when we go into therapy, I've been a talk therapist for decades. We go in and we know what we want to fix and we know what we want to talk about and we could just fix this situation. With breath work, it's a completely different process, isn't it? Like,
Completely. Yeah. Although
yeah.
it's quite and it's quite beautiful to then look at how it's linked to that initial
Mm,
intention. It's almost upon reflection that then I can look back and see, oh, that makes sense how that's linked. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Absolutely. And that's totally been my experience as well of just kind of in the beginning going in really like, I want to say going in blind, kind of knowing what on the surface was happening in my life where I got stuck. And then realizing that these parts of me were coming up and I was, basically releasing them with tears as they disappeared, as they went off into the ethers, younger parts. And it's not like they ever disappear. They were still a part of me, but um and the only way I use the word magic. And after it just you're right, it just makes so much sense to your life, to what's in the context of our own lives, and things that we could never really predict or know because we're talking into the subconscious mind that is really driving the bus. Oh, I'm just going to take a deep breath there. So I'm going to invite all of you just to come into yourselves for 3 last deep breaths before we close this container for today. And start by just inhaling deep, deep, deep into your belly, into your womb space. This part of you that has held and protected and guarded so much of you, so precisely and exquisitely. And as you exhale, release that tension that's never yours. Maybe inhale one more time, just breathing space into yourself. Exhale, and one more. Breathing deeply right down into your root, source of your creativity, your intuition, your own truth, love. Exhale, let your shoulders and jaw drop down. And I want to thank all of you for being here as I extinguish the candle to mark the end of our time together. Hope everyone has a wonderful day, and you'll get the recording. And again, reach out and pass it along to other people who you feel might be ready to reignite, to reclaim, to come home to their own magic. All right. Bye, everyone. Bye, Juliet. Thanks.